Come to business questions.
Thanks, guys.
We now come to business questions. I call the Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the Leader would give us the forthcoming business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 18th of March will include, on Monday the 18th of March, proceedings on the Supply and Appropriation Anticipation and Adjustments Bill, followed by consideration of Lord's amendments to the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill. On Tuesday the 19th of March, remaining stages of the Trade Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership Bill, Lords. Wednesday the 20th of March, second reading of the Post Office Horizon System Offences Bill. Thursday the 21st of March, general debate on the reports of the Defence Committee and the Committee of Public Accounts on Armed Forces Readiness and Defence Equipment, followed by a general debate on the reports of the Environmental Audit Committee, Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee and Science, Innovation and Technology Committee on Food Security. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee on the recommendation of the Liaison Committee. Friday the 22nd of March, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 25th of March includes Monday the 25th of March, remaining stages of the Investigatory Powers Amendment Bill, Lords. Tuesday the 26th of March, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Pedicabs London Bill, Lords, followed by a debate on a motion relating to the National Policy Statement for National Networks. The House will rise for the Easter recess at the conclusion of business on Tuesday the 26th of March and return on Monday the 15th of April.
Lucy Powell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, may I pay tribute to Tommy McAvoy, the former member for Rutherglen. Tommy was a legend of the Labour Whip's office, in fact the longest ever serving government whip, highly respected and revered, and my thoughts are with his family and friends. Mr. Speaker, despite the King's speech only being a few months ago, the government seems to be running scared of its own legislative programme. So where have all their flagship bills gone? The Renters Reform Bill is being held to ransom, we hear, on the brink of collapse because the government won't stand up to landlords on their own side and end no-fault evictions. Second reading and committee stage happened in November, but nothing since. This is a manifesto commitment, so when will we get report stage? If they don't end no-fault evictions, then we will. The Prime Minister's own personal pledge to much fanfare for a smoke-free generation also seems to have gone up in smoke. Where is this bill? We've offered them Labour votes. They should take them. The Victim and Prisoners Bill is languishing in the Lords. Is that because the government don't want my right honourable friend, the member for Hull North's amendment on infected blood to be enacted? It's pretty shameful if so. Can she promise government support for the amended bill, and when will we finally see details of the compensation scheme? The sentencing bill is also stuck in limbo. We've been waiting for weeks for its committee stage. Is this another victim of this worn-out government? Apparently the Justice Secretary and the Prime Minister are at loggerheads over how to proceed, whilst this week the government sneaked out further plans to release criminals early because they've lost control of prison places. Isn't this exactly what members should be scrutinising during the passage of this bill? So will she bring it back? Much needed and long heralded legislation to regulate English football is still nowhere to be seen. Just this week, the Premier League shelved a new financial settlement for the football pyramid, and the English Football League are responding today. Doesn't she agree that new powers to impose a fair deal for smaller clubs can't come soon enough? Fans in Bury, Macclesfield, Derby, Reading, Scunthorpe, and may I add Portsmouth, want their precious clubs saved. If the Conservatives want to make this an election issue in these places, then I say bring it on. Because let's be really clear, if they don't want to regulate football governance, then we will. And I notice she's not announced any further provision beyond Monday for ping-pong on the emergency Rwanda legislation? Is that because it's now been pushed back to after Easter? Some emergency. To be honest, Mr Speaker, I don't want to hear as parliamentary time allows when there is an abundance of it. Do we really need time on the floor of the House for so many SIs or committee stage of the pedicabs bill? They've got the time, but on these issues and more, they don't have the support of their own side. It's as if they don't have the numbers. With every week that passes, their majority gets smaller and smaller. This week, it was another defection. But the reasons for their dwindling numbers does not make for pretty reading, Mr Speaker. In no particular order. Tractor porn, drug abuse, a conviction for paedophilia, breaking parliamentary rules on paid lobbying, groping, misleading Parliament, flashing at staff, tantrums because they weren't given peerages, eating camel penis. It might sound ridiculous, but it's actually not funny. It all brings Parliament into disrepute and drags our politics through the gutter. And now this week we have had overt racism from the Conservative Party's biggest donor. I had to check myself yesterday, Mr Speaker, that the Prime Minister really said that he was pleased. He was pleased that this man, who said a black woman MP should be shot and that Indians should climb on the roof of trains, supported his party. Is she pleased? And will she use his resources in her marginal Portsmouth North constituency? Surely, if he's a racist, which he clearly is, he has no place in the Conservative Party and they should give him his money back. The truth is, Mr Speaker, they can't implement their own legislative programme. They've lost control. And as the Right Honourable Member for Broxbourne said last night, the Conservative Party is unleadable. For the sake of the nation, it's better to go early than allow this psychodrama to continue. He's right, isn't he?
Can I start, Mr Speaker, by wishing all who are marking Ramadan in the UK and around the world a blessed Ramadan, and join with the tribute that the Honourable Lady paid to Tony McAvey, who I'm sure many members will be paying tribute to him in the coming days and weeks. And can I thank also my Right Honourable friend, the member for Maidenhead, for her service and friendship over many years. This House may be losing her, but I know she has many more years of public service ahead of her. The Honourable Lady focuses firstly on the legislative programme. She will know that 26 bills have been introduced already in this session and 4 have reached royal assent. She will know that last session we did 43 bills and we broke many records in terms of private bills, for example, and the amount of legislation we were able to get through. She will know the passage of those bills that are going through both houses at the moment, and she will also know that we will shortly bring through the bill on football governance. It is a programme of work that we initiated. The review that was done with help from many clubs around the country has led to this. And of course, when we bring legislation to the House, it needs to have the confidence of the English Football League, and having attended many events with them myself, that is very clear, and I know that is understood. She refers to this side of the House as having no energy left for legislation, or not bringing things forward, or that we are a zombie parliament. I'm afraid it is the opposition that is the zombies in this chamber. Yep. The House rises early when the opposition is not opposing. The finance bill committee stage was done in 30 minutes, and in recent times the opposition have had it hard to even find speakers for their own debates. It is they who are displaying zombie tendencies. It is often tempting, Mr Speaker, to refer to the leader of the opposition as the Night of the Living Dead. In stark contrast, I would commend the always energetic and vibrant stance that my honourable friend, the member for Broxbourne, takes. I think the point that he was making in that interview interview is that the plan is working. In all seriousness, to come to the very serious issue that the Honourable Lady raises about Mr Hester's remarks, they were racist and abhorrent, and I fully understand threatening to the Right Honourable Member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, who I understand has referred the matter to the police. My party is funded by fundraising and donations, notably raffles, donations from private individuals. There might be some, Mr Speaker, that would come to this dispatch box today and attempt to argue that such a refund isn't practically possible or warranted, but I'm not going to attempt to do that. The point the Honourable Lady has made is not concerned with the practicalities of doing so, or the consequences to CCHQ's payroll, or the ability of my party to fight a general election. No, it is a point of principle, and I respect that. She could not have been clearer in what she has said today. She has stated that it is wrong to take funds from people who say horrible things, no matter when they were said. And when there is an issue, funds should be returned. She has been clear about that today, and she has said that that is the right thing to do. If, for example, someone has said of Hamas that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, as Dale Vince has said, or that I and my colleagues should be taken out and shot, as the RMT union boss Steve Headley has said, the Honourable Lady would presumably think it wrong to hang on to funds donated to Labour by an organisation branded, and I quote, as institutionally sexist. I think that under Tom Roach's time as GMB Secretary-General, running, and I quote, a casting couch culture menacing young women in the union, the Labour Party took 12 million quid from him. Those three charmers alone, Mr Speaker, have contributed £15 million to the Labour Party, which presumably, immediately following this session, the Honourable Lady will demand is repaid. To be precise and to assist her in that matter, those donations were made directly to the Central Labour Party, Labour MPs, MSPs, councillors, the Mayor of Manchester, she might like to mention that this weekend, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party and the Leader of the Opposition. If Labour are sincere in this matter, and this is not a political stunt, they'll commit to repaying those funds. There would be some additional upsides to doing so too. The scurrilous suggestions that Labour's pro-stop oil policies were anything to do with Mr Vince's donations would no longer be able to be deployed. The charge that Labour were in the pockets of militant trade unions and that's why they wouldn't support our legislation to protect public access to the services they pay for. But I'm not holding my breath, Mr Speaker, because I know that Labour say one thing and do another. They've dropped their £28 billion spending pledge on decarbonisation, yet they keep the policy. They say they won't tolerate pro-genocidal chants, yet they have restored the whip to the Honourable Member for Middlesbrough. They say they back our tax cuts, but they won't vote for them. And as a consequence, they can't now say how they'd fund NHS appointments, breakfast clubs, NHS equipment, dentistry appointments, home installation, their own state-owned energy company, and their wealth fund. No amount of confected drama and virtue signalling can disguise the fact that it is the same old Labour Party, the same old hypocrisy and the same old games. This week, in the real world, outside the Westminster bubble, which is where we're focused, cancer deaths for middle-aged people are down by a third. Revised forecasts are showing the economy is growing. For the 8th month in a row, real wages are rising. Mr Speaker, the plan is working, unlike Labour's line of attack, and the Honourable Member for Broxbourne is very excited about it.
Father of the House.
Mr Speaker, it's good to hear inclusive politics. Can I ask the Leader of the House if before or after Easter there might be, following consultations, a statement on inclusivity in Parliament? We rightly want to embrace and value difference and diversity, whether from a person's race, gender, other characteristics, background or experience. The word that's missing is sex. Over the last 5 years, those who are gender critical have raised all sorts of issues like the constant use of puberty blockers for children and the attack on the LGB alliance because they won't swallow what Stonewall and Mermaid persuaded many government departments and agencies to do, which is to disregard sex completely. While I want to support trans people and make sure they have a life away from bigotry and fear, would it be possible for the House to examine its own policies on inclusiveness and try to make sure that the word sex is included along with the other characteristics for which people should not be discriminated against?
Leader of the House.
Well, my right honourable friend raises a very important point, and I know that there will be many members of the House of Commons Commission that will have heard what he has said today. This is a very important matter. When the government has put forward measures, for example, to protect single-sex spaces, which is very important and valued by many people in this country, we have also at the same time been reassuring about what that means for trans people and people who are living in a different gender. It is perfectly possible to do both, and I think that this House having a further examination on that and focus on that is a very good suggestion.
SNP spokesperson Deidre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And may I wish also everyone a happy Ramadan and pay my respects to the family of Tommy McAvoy. Well, here we are again, Mr. Speaker, trying to get answers to those sticky, inconvenient questions the leader doesn't want to and indeed never supplies. I'll begin with the dream that dares not speak its name here, but I will. Brexit. The Resolution Foundation tells us the UK's goods exports and imports have contracted by far more than any other G7 country, largely due to Brexit. Things are now so dire in Brexit land, even news of an uplift in GDP of just 0.2% is fallen upon by Brexiteers like starving pigeons on a crust of the stalest bread. Now, her party aims to shrink suffering public services even further, as evidenced in last week's budget. So shouldn't there be some discussion, a debate even, over the huge uplift in civil service jobs Brexit seems to have required since the EU referendum in 2016? And despite all the glorious promises of strengthened environmental protections in this freer, fairer and better off Britain, we are also seeing green policies abandoned right, left and centre by both Tory and Labour parties. A hapless minister even trying to tell us yesterday that building new gas-powered plants was good for the environment. Something I've seen suggested is supported by the Shadow Environment Minister too. Once again, Labour presenting one face down here, another entirely up in Scotland. Frustratingly, all these warning signs of Brexit impacts across a huge range of sectors come in bits and pieces. Surely what's needed is for her government to collate all of the impacts and present the result to the British people to properly judge whether it's a success or not. Can she help to facilitate that? There was a little good news this week, Mr. Speaker. There is hopefully to be some proper government redress for victims of the shocking Post Office Horizon scandal, although still no comfort for infected blood scandal victims. I met with the International Consortium of British Pensioners recently, and I fear another scandal is about to break on frozen pensions as well. There are so many scandals now it's hard to keep track. Something does not work in this place that so many can build up under successive governments of different political hues. And unfortunately, in closing, her party also distinguished itself once again this week by choosing money over morality with its grubby handling of the racist comments allegedly made about one of our colleagues in this House. A debate re-examining how parties are funded is called for at the very least. Now, the 7 Up series was recently deemed the most influential TV series of the last 50 years. Well, 14 years is well and truly up for this terrible government. But apparently we can't be put out of our Tory misery yet because their junior MPs here have debts and need the extra months to build up some reserves. Would she agree that's not much of an excuse?
Yes, Leader of the House.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, can I welcome her welcome of the Horizon bill. I hope that her party will be supporting it. She will know we will bring forward shortly measures to rectify the matter on infected blood. These were scandals that did not arise under this administration, but we have gripped these issues. The infected blood issue had been left for decades. We have investigated, we have set up inquiries, we are compensating the victims, and I hope that the House will support us in doing so on both matters. The Honourable Lady insinuates I dodge questions. I do not dodge questions. 6 weeks ago, the Honourable Lady said she would write to me with a list of all the questions I had not answered. She has not yet done so. But again, Mr. Speaker, the SNP never fails to disappoint. Asking a question today about sound administration and morality, or money over morality, in a week when it has been discovered that the Scottish Government have presided over a six-figure sum of Scottish taxpayers' money being spent on an art installation that promises, and I quote, a magical, erotic journey through a distinctly Scottish landscape, otherwise known to the rest of us as a hardcore porn movie. I'm glad the SNP are interested in good governance and improving administration, particularly with reference to Brexit. Let me see how I could help improve the Scottish Government effectiveness in that regard. There has been criticism this week that the SNP are blowing taxpayers' cash on copious embassies and EU lobbying to rejoin the EU. That camper van, Mr. Speaker, must be out of the police pound soon. Why not turn it into a mobile embassy and drive between Brussels and European capitals, lobbying for EU membership? Perhaps if the SNP also wanted to continue their funding of innovative film projects, they could double up and ask Cliff Richard to come with them and produce a sequel to Summer Holiday. And of course there would be the added bonus that it would also cut down the need for the SNP to blow more taxpayers' cash on overseas jollies. We are here to help, Mr. Speaker.
Sir Charles Walker.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. I have a lot of time for the Honourable Lady from Manchester Central, but I need to clear my name.
Oh, my goodness.
I strode across to Victoria Park yesterday to put my boot into my miserablest colleagues demanding an early general election. I said to Gary Gibbon, with incomes rising, inflation falling, the economy growing, the plan working, why May the 2nd, Mr. Speaker? I am rolling up my sleeves to man the ramparts in November. But my question is, can we have an urgent debate on foot-in-mouth disease?
Foot in mouth or foot and mouth?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm very pleased the honourable gentleman was in the chamber today to set that record straight and request a debate on foot and mouth disease. I will, because of his energetic question, write to the Secretary of State and ask him to consider what the honourable gentleman has said. And for the rest of it, we thank him for it.
Chair of the Backbench Committee, Ian Mearns.
Very grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll declare an interest. I am a member of the Tyneside Irish Centre, which is very handily placed because of its proximity to St James's Park in Newcastle upon Tyne city centre. And with that in mind, I would like to wish all members of the Irish diaspora a very happy St Patrick's Day on Sunday. Mr. Speaker, we're still open for business for applications for Westminster Hall debates, but we're a little disappointed that we haven't been allocated a little bit more time before the Easter recess for some chamber time. But please, for after the Easter recess, we would welcome applications for Westminster Hall debates on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoon. Mr. Speaker, the cost of childcare has been a significant barrier to work for many parents, and the increase in funded places would be more welcome, but it would seem with the first phase of the increase coming into effect in April, many parents are reporting difficulty in obtaining the promised funded places and very significant increases in costs for the non-funded elements. So can we have a debate in government time on the impact of the first phase of the scheme on accessibility and affordability, and whether the scheme as it currently stands will effectively remove the childcare barrier to work and fulfil its promise to parents?
Well, can I thank the honourable member for all the work that he is doing for his committee, and I hear his appeal for more time, and I will very soon be able to give him some information about that. With regard to our childcare policy, this is a priority for the Secretary of State. I will make sure that she has heard his concerns today. It is one of the many elements that we are bringing forward to enable people to remain economically active and to ensure that they're growing their household income. It's a very important service. That's why we have done it. It's an unprecedented, generous package for parents, and we must ensure that all parents who want to have access to it can.
Nickie Aiken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, I hosted my second parliamentary drop-in for fertility treatment with the likes of Fertility Matters at Work, LGBT Mummies, UK Fertility Network and others. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it's now time that we took the access to fertility treatment and ensuring that employers themselves provide time for people undertaking fertility treatment, time off work, and that we can have a debate in government time to discuss this very, very important subject?
Leave the House.
Well, can I thank, on behalf of all of us, for the Honourable Lady for all the work that she does in this very important matter. It is primarily an issue for the Department of Health and Social Care, but also some of the issues she raises will fall into the Department for Work and Pensions. So I shall make sure that both Secretaries of State have heard what she has said today. This is increasingly a concern and a very important matter to many couples, and we must ensure we are doing all we can to support them.
John Pryor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I press the Leader of the House again about the Football Governance Bill and how urgent it is? Many of us on both sides of the House have clubs in our constituencies that have been on the verge of going under, and that situation is only going to get worse. Could we bring the bill, the putative bill, to the floor of the House as soon as possible?
Yes. Leader.
The Honourable Gentleman has my undertaking to do that. It's very important that we bring this bill forward. The football pyramid at every level needs to be supported. I know many honourable members will have had a great deal of input into it, and we must make sure that the bill is perfect when it comes to this House.
Anna Firth.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. During a recent visit to Eastwood Academy, an outstanding non-selective secondary school, which aims to help every child fulfil its potential, the head said to me that a Year 10 student had been removed from school mid-term in favour of elective home education. The student was doing incredibly well, came from a challenging background. He had only 10 days to try and engage with the parents, and they wouldn't even come into the school for a meeting. So please, can we have a debate in government time on the process by which children can suddenly be ripped out of school, and an assurance that when they are being electively home educated, they are getting the education they rightfully deserve.
Good point. Good point.
Can I thank my honourable friend for raising this very important point? She will appreciate that these situations are often incredibly complicated. There are many factors involved, but it is important that we ensure that we know where children are and what education that they are getting, and that we can, particularly after the pandemic, that we can ensure that all children are getting access to a good education. My honourable friend, the member for Mearns Valley, introduced the Children Not in School Registered Support and Orders Bill on the 11th of December, and it has its second reading scheduled on Friday. And I hope we can ensure that this bill makes progress in this session. It is very important, and of course would not impede in any way on people that do want to home educate their children, and as many do in a very good way indeed.
Richard Foord.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We had a debate in Westminster Hall on the 12th of December on arms export licences for sales to Israel. On the same day, the 12th of December, the Foreign Secretary decided he was satisfied that there was good evidence to support a judgment that Israel is committed to comply with international humanitarian law. It is Liberal Democrat policy to have a presumption of denial for arms sales to countries on the most recent FCDO list of territories designated human rights priority countries. Could we have a debate in government time, please, on that list of human rights priority countries so that we might better interdict Iranian arms supplies to Hamas and to Hezbollah, but also look again at UK arms exports to Israel?
Yeah. Leader of the House.
Well, I will certainly make sure that the Department for Business and Trade, which is the department that has oversight on this matter, is aware of what the Honourable Gentleman has said today. Of course, this House scrutinises the policies and the procedures that surround arms export controls. We're very transparent. We have one of the most rigorous regimes in the world in that respect, and I'm sure that we would welcome further scrutiny of it, because I think it is a sound policy.
Rehman, Chishti.
Speaker, last week we saw a budget that delivered lower taxes and high economic growth, and it covered areas such as freezing fuel duty and supporting childcare through changes in child benefit, which areas like Gillingham and Rainham will benefit. However, there is a question I'd like to ask the Leader of the House to ask the Secretary of State for levelling up to make, and that is with regards to how those 20 town centres were chosen for levelling up and investment and regeneration. 20, because that statement needs to ask how that criteria was applied, because Gillingham, in my constituency, has not had any previous funding despite representations to the Secretary of State, and my constituents, like any other constituents, want to know how that criteria is applied and that decisions are made on a fair, transparent, open basis.
Well, can I thank firstly my honourable friend for being a champion for his constituents and in particular trying to get them levelling up funding. He will know that the processes that assess where funding is directed are independent from ministers, they are transparent in the criteria and they're grading for that. And he will also know that where people have not been successful, that department has quite often worked with local authorities and members of this House to improve the bids that they are putting forward. So I'd encourage him to go and talk to the Secretary of State, and I will make sure that he knows that the Honourable Gentleman has raised this today.
Jim McMahon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Oldham is a wonderful place, but it is not without challenges, and I should say the local community is very concerned at the number of young people that are being drawn into gang activity and also who are at risk of child criminal exploitation. Figures over the last 2 years show that 312 young people have been identified as being at risk of exploitation. We've now got 5 Section 60 stop and searches in place over last year as well, because of the number of knife incidents that are taking place. Can I ask the Leader of the House, in government time, can we have a debate on what's being done in those urban areas where criminal exploitation, I'm afraid, is not being checked?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this important matter and also encourage him, as I'm sure he has, to raise it with his local police crime commissioner. I will make sure the Home Secretary has heard what he has said today, but I would encourage him to address this with his local constabulary and the police crime commissioner.
Jonathan Gullis.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Education is the bedrock to levelling up in Stoke-on-Trent, North Kidsgrove and Talk, which is why since 2010 I've been delighted that now 92% of schools are rated good or outstanding, with Mill Hill Primary Academy in Littlechell and Stanfield Ward and New Foord Academy in Smallthorne both recently having received the outstanding status. But sadly, Mr Speaker, Labour's abysmal and dismal record looms large and haunts Stoke-on-Trent thanks to their languishing 88 schools and a disastrous PFI debt deal, which has meant that recent hikes to the charges facing those schools could put staff's livelihoods at risk, as well as undermine the very fabric of what we're trying to do, which is turn the great education of our city around after Labour's abysmal failure. So will the Leader of the House assist me in securing an adjournment debate or a Westminster Hall debate so I can raise these matters directly with the relevant department in order to ensure that these 88 schools can and will be protected?
Leader of the House.
Well, first, can I congratulate my honourable friend and the teachers and parents and everyone who has worked in his constituency to improve education standards. That is very good news indeed. But I know, as a founder member of the No to PFI campaign, the legacy issues that many public organisations are dealing with, and I know that he has been a doughty campaigner on trying to get these matters resolved and ensuring that the commercial negotiations that need to take place to protect those public services and those working in them are properly underway. Given that Education Questions is not until the end of April, I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said today, and also the Treasury, which has done much under our administration to try and rectify the damage these contracts has done. I will make sure that they have heard what he has said, and he will know how to apply for a debate.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, with the Horizon scandal, sub-postmasters are rightly being put at the centre of the government's response to that scandal. Last week, the leader told me that the Paymaster General was going to have a tour around the United Kingdom to meet all those infected and affected, or the groups of the infected and affected in the contaminated blood scandal. I've had a letter from the Paymaster General, which doesn't give me any more information. And also, all the groups are telling me that they've had no contact with the Paymaster General's office to organise that tour. It's 9 weeks until Sir Brian produces his final report on the infected blood inquiry. Is it possible to have a statement from the Paymaster General so we can all understand exactly what is happening and what this tour is going to do? Because a lot of people are concerned that it may be a delaying tactic, and what we all want to do is to get compensation to these people who've been infected and affected.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this again? In doing so, it sends a message to those that have been waiting far too long for redress, that they are at the forefront of our minds. I have met again this week with the Paymaster General. He is working and he is making good progress towards getting this resolved. I know this is frustrating for the Honourable Lady and all those involved with her all-party parliamentary group, but I know that the Paymaster General will come to this House at the first available opportunity to give an update on these matters. We are now moving towards the end of this process. What the Paymaster General has discussed with me has given me confidence in that respect, and he feels very strongly that he wants to meet with people directly. There will be more information coming out on that, but I do understand the Honourable Lady's impatience.
Royton.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Leader of the House will know that I welcome the support the Government have given to pensioners with an 8.5 increase in pension in April and the triple lock remaining firmly in place. However, the tax threshold will consume much of the support that pensioners have been given, and the national insurance reduction has done nothing for pensioners. So, can I ask the Leader of the House to arrange an urgent debate on improving the quality of life for pensioners in the United Kingdom who have worked hard all their lives, contributed to our nation's success and deserve a high-quality retirement?
Well, I think that this government can be very proud of its record in this respect, and I remember when we came in 2010, the appalling maladministration of pension and tax credits that left many people trapped in poverty and misery. The triple lock and uprating of the state pension by 8.5% from April this year will protect pensioner incomes. The state pension has increased by £3,700 since 2010, and it's very important that we ensure that people are being lifted out of poverty and looked after at the moment in their life when their cost of living rises due to heating bills and other demands that are made on their purse as they age. The effect of that has been we have lifted 200,000 pensioners out of absolute poverty and improved the lives of many more. I think that is a record to be proud of, and I will make sure the issue is that he raises is heard by the Secretary of State.
Owen Thompson.
This week we mark the start of the 40th anniversary of the miners' strikes of 1984-85, and tomorrow I will attempt to bring my miners' pardons bill forward in this place, and obviously would invite the leader to join me in supporting that bill. But beyond that, could we have arrangements for a debate in government time into the potential merits of a public inquiry into the political interference that took place at that time?
Leader of the House.
Congratulate the honourable gentleman for the advert for his bill tomorrow. I wish him well with it. And with regard to the further issue he raises, that would be a matter for the Cabinet Office. I understand why he makes the point, but I suspect it is not going to be on the list of the Cabinet Office priorities for a public inquiry.
Therese Villiers.
Can we have a debate on the shocking decision by Labour's Barnet Council to approve overdevelopment in Victoria Quarter in New Barnet and concreting over green fields in Whalebones in High Barnet? This is a disgraceful decision, and it just demonstrates the ominous situation in the terrible event Labour were to win power at the general election, because their leader wants to bulldoze over the green belt as well.
Leader of the House.
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for yet again raising concerns that she has over particular developments in her area. She will know that we have worked hard to strike the right balance with ensuring that we are building to enable people to be able to have cost-effective housing and to achieve their ambitions of home ownership. She will know that the next levelling up and housing and communities questions is not until later in April, so I will make sure that this particular local issue the Honourable Lady is Right Honourable Lady is campaigning on is brought to the attention of the Secretary of State.
Richard Berger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I want to raise with the Leader of the House an absolutely shocking statistic. Research shows that more than 300,000 people died as a result of this government's austerity policies. And on top of those deaths, austerity has driven down wages, caused the economy to stagnate and ripped the heart out of so many public services that our communities rely upon. Yet despite this, the government plans £20 billion worth more of cuts. So can we have an urgent debate on the specific issue of the damage caused by austerity economics and why they need to be ditched once and for all?
I thank the honourable gentleman for the opportunity to remind him of the state of the country when we took office in 2010. Youth unemployment running at 45%, 400,000 more children than there are today in absolute poverty, 200,000 more pensioners than there are today in absolute poverty. In my constituency, my hospital was in the top 5 for those with MRSA infections. We had crumbling school buildings. The Labour Party's Building Schools for the Future programme hadn't actually done any work, and secondary schools were excluded from it. I could go on. The honourable gentleman also points to the fact that Labour, if they got in, would repeat that exercise as well. Currently, they are unable, in their spending plans, to afford NHS appointments, breakfast clubs, NHS equipment, dentistry appointments, home insulation, the job bonus, their plans on wealth funds, or their plans on a state-owned energy company. We have brought back sound money. It is the Labour Party that doesn't understand that. And so if he really wants to complain about what we had to do to get this country back on track, he should look to his own party and their behaviour pre-2010.
Jason McCartney.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Whilst the shambolic Labour leadership at Kirklees Council are busy fighting amongst themselves with resignations, sackings and the jailing of a Labour councillor for perverting the course of justice, can we have a debate on all the millions of pounds of government investment that's flowing into the Colne and Home Valleys and Lindley, a brand new A&E unit, the multi-billion-pound Trans-Pennine Rail upgrade, the West Yorkshire Investment Zone, boosting the University of Huddersfield's National Health Innovation Campus, £100 million of levelling up cash for the indoor market, the Penistone Line upgrade and Marsden Mills, and a £30 million teaching block at Greenhead College, and there is much, much more.
Leader of the House.
Can I thank and congratulate my honourable friend for listing the considerable achievements that he and his local community have been able to achieve. It is a great track record and one to be very proud of. And I would say that it sits in stark contrast to what has become a distinctive feature of Labour-run councils. In Birmingham, bankruptcy; in Liverpool, police investigations on corruption; and Sandwell, saved from complete failure by government intervention; and Labour's vote-rigging legacy in Tower Hamlets is still causing havoc for residents.
Patricia Gibson.
Deputy Speaker, the Scottish Government has built more affordable homes than any other country in the United Kingdom, 126,000 over the last 17 years. Meanwhile, there has been a staggering 76% fall in affordable housing alone in London this financial year. Will the Leader of the House make a statement setting out her response to comments from housing charity Crisis, which said that the UK Government's 3-year freeze on local housing allowance is one of the biggest drivers of homelessness?
Leader of the House.
The Honourable Lady asks, I will deliver. I'll make a statement now. The Mayor of London's record on home building, crime and on supporting small businesses and charities is a shambles, and he should be voted out of office.
Andrew Saloon.
We build thousands of new homes to make sure that people are decently and affordably housed, as we're doing in my constituency. We also put thousands of extra motorists onto the existing road network. The A505 between Leighton Buzzard and Dunstable has seen 4 fatalities in 6 years and 50 accidents, and Bedford Road and Houghton Regis is not safe. So what can we do to make sure we recognise the impact on the existing road network when we build thousands of these new homes?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend again for his work on ensuring that what developments take place in his constituency are matched by investments in infrastructure and services, whether it is healthcare, which he has campaigned on enormously, but also transport as well, which he raises again today. I will make sure that the Secretary of State for Transport has heard what the honourable gentleman has said. He can raise it with him directly on the 21st of March, and I congratulate him because this is a very, very important aspect of ensuring that as developments progress, there are the services that his community needs.
Liam Byrne.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The greater the scandal, the greater the obligation on us to act with speed and clarity to provide remedies. Notwithstanding yesterday's welcome news on the Horizon scandal bill, we haven't acted fast enough, and now we're not acting with enough clarity, because the Department for Business and Trade is more than a fortnight late in providing the explanatory memorandum for its supplementary estimates. No other department has missed the deadline, only the Department for Business and Trade. Now, we cannot see where the budget might lie for remedies and redress for the GLO litigants whose heroic tenacity actually allowed us to overturn the convictions that the bill proposes. So, can the leader join me in urging the department to provide that explanatory memorandum quickly? And if not, can we have a debate in government time to get to the bottom on what on earth is going on?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for the right honourable gentleman for raising this matter. I will certainly make sure that the department has heard what he has said and that this House is presented with papers in good time to be able to scrutinise that legislation. He will know the complex issues that surround this bill and the work that has gone on to ensure that the bill is brought to the House in the best form possible that it can make swift passage through this House. And I know that there is concurrent activity to ensure that what it enables is ready to be implemented once it leaves this House and gains royal assent. He raises an important matter, and I will make sure the department has heard what he has said.
Wendy Morton.
Speaker, last Friday on International Women's Day, I had a fantastic time celebrating Let Girls Play, the girls' biggest football day in my constituency, when schools, including Castlefort, JMI, Pelsall Village, Riders Hayes, St John's, St Anne's and Streatley Manor Primary all came together. Will my right honourable friend join me in thanking Walsall Football Club Foundation, including Swifty the mascot, and Streatley Academy, and everyone who was involved in organising this day and hopefully encouraging and inspiring the next generation of lionesses?
Probably a debate.
Well, can I congratulate my right honourable friend for all the work she has done and join her in her thanks and praise for Walsall Football Club. Walsall Football Foundation, Swifty the mascot, and everyone involved in it. The proof of focus in this area is in the statistics, and the BBC recently analysed the uptake in women playing the national game, and there are now twice as many registered female football teams in England as there were just 7 years ago, and I think that is a tremendous thing to celebrate.
Claire Hannah.
Thank you very much. Members will know that the Shared Prosperity Fund was initially a replacement for EU funds and a poor imitation in the view of many. Despite Northern Ireland having the highest levels of economic inactivity and the lowest proportional spend of SPF, money allocated to that fund has in fact been repurposed into last month's Stormont deal and effectively raided to fund vital services. Will the Leader of the House allow for a debate in government time to discuss that fund and how money can be returned properly to levelling up and to supporting employability for carers, for the long-term unemployed, for vulnerable young people and for people living with a disability in Northern Ireland?
The Honourable Lady raises a very important point, and the opportunity to speak directly to the Secretary of State, the dispatch box, is not until the 24th of April, so I will make sure that he has heard her concerns today.
To Michael Ellis.
Madam Deputy Speaker. Labour demand that because of a racist comment made 5 years ago, a large donation to the Conservatives should be returned. But does my right honourable friend recall that the head of the Public and Commercial Services Union, PCS, said 6 years ago, quote, Israel created the anti-Semitism row in the Labour Party, end quote. The Board of Deputies said at the time that it was anti-Semitic. However, Sorotka was subsequently elected president of the whole TUC. Now, applying the same standards, shouldn't Labour return the tens of millions that they have received from trade union donations?
Well, my right honourable friend has provided yet another example to add to the three that I gave earlier in this session. So it's £15 million and rising, and we wait to see what the Honourable Lady opposite does.
Kevin Brennan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can we have a debate about Ofcom's approach towards GB News and the alleged breaches, and found breaches, in fact, of the Broadcasting Code and its ownership? Isn't it time that we had a proper wide-ranging inquiry from Ofcom into whether or not Sir Paul Marshall, who has endorsed very right-wing and extreme views, is a fit and proper person to hold a broadcasting licence, and whether the editorial policy is actually in breach of the rules set down by this House?
Well, the honourable gentleman is an experienced parliamentarian and he will know how to secure a debate. The chairman of the Backbench Business Committee is smiling and wiggling his eyebrows at him along the bench. The work that Ofcom does is incredibly important. They have raised a number of concerns with that channel, but with particular broadcasters that are and presenters that are in it. They have not raised matters of concern with regard to the channel itself, but if the honourable gentleman wishes to explore these matters further, he knows what he can do.
Peter Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Working with Durham Police and Darlington Council Civic Enforcement, I have been shocked to learn of the widespread sale of illegal vapes, illicit tobacco, underage sales to children, and the grooming and entry of children into acting as agents for this organised crime akin to county lines. What work is government doing across DLUC, Health, Home Office and Justice to tackle this issue? And can my right honourable friend find time for a debate on this deeply troubling issue?
Leader of the House.
Well, my honourable friend will know how he can secure a debate, and things that could be discussed at that occasion would be the 30 million of new funding per year for enforcement agencies, including trading standards, HMRC and Border Force, to tackle the illicit market and underage sales. There is a new joint illicit tobacco strategy and a new illicit tobacco task force backed by 100 million of new funding over the next 5 years. This is a very important issue for government, and I welcome further scrutiny of it.
Gavin Newland.
Much, Madam Deputy Speaker. With only 4 bank branches left in my constituency, I thought my days of moaning about branch closures were over. But on Tuesday, Lloyds informed me that they were closing the Bank of Scotland branches in Renfrew and Bridge-O'Rear. Renfrew is a growing town of 25,000, which will not have a single branch, and the village of Bridge-O'Rear, if we're doing anything without a car is different, will also not have a branch. So can we have a debate on local banking? Because for so many, that is now left to, albeit in simple terms, to the post office, whose reputation in the public, it's fair to say, is in the gutter.
Well, these are important services for any community, and the Honourable Gentleman is right to raise concerns about what is happening in his constituency. It is fortunate that the Secretary of State for Levelling Up is on the benches. He has saved me the stamp to raise this matter with him, because his department has done a lot of work in ensuring that even though there might not be bricks and mortar there for banking services, that those services can be retained in local communities, including communities that are very isolated and rural. So I will, belt and braces, I will write to the Secretary of State and ask that his officials who have put together best practice in this area contact the Honourable Gentleman's office.
Tom Hunt.
When Mark Murphy was a presenter at BBC Radio Suffolk, I think it's fair to say we had a bit of a mixed relationship. He was probably the most robust questioner I've ever encountered. However, in last September, he took over as the CEO of Cancer Support Suffolk, and he has done an exceptional job with his team. I went in there last week, they've made some changes. You don't need to be referred by the hospital to go in there to have a meeting, and also it supports family members, not just those with cancer. One of the things he raised to me, though, is that he thinks that there should be national screening for prostate cancer, and there should be a level playing field when it comes to all forms of cancer to make sure we catch it early, work with some hard-to-reach communities to raise awareness as well. Will the Leader of the House support me in this campaign and also recognise the work that Mark Murphy's done and how it actually could save lives in Suffolk?
Well, can I first of all add my thanks and congratulations to the Honourable Gentleman for those individuals who have done so much to improve services and patient experience in his area. We have had some good news on cancer outcomes today, and that is very welcome, and it is because of those people, their attention to detail and their efforts that those achievements have been secured. He will know that diagnostics are absolutely critical to ensuring that people have good outcomes. That is why we have invested so much in the new 160 diagnostic test centres in a whole raft of therapy areas across the country. I will make sure that the Secretary of State for Health has heard his particular interest in this area, and we now obviously have new opportunities to use data that the Department of Health is collecting to ensure that we improve patient outcomes everywhere.
Yvonne Favard.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week I visited Zealandia UK, and besides showing me their range of products, I had a Zoom call with their Managing Director of their Ukrainian factory, who set up Bake for Ukraine, a project that helps bring fresh bread to local people by sending decommissioned commercial bakery equipment from the UK, converted and given to small bakeries in local villages. Tesco already contribute to the scheme, but could the Leader of the House suggest how this scheme can be promoted to all colleagues to encourage more companies to contribute and raise awareness of this wonderful project?
Well, in addition to asking a question, the Honourable Lady has provided her own answer by sharing with us this very impressive scheme, which shows the power of business as a force for good in the world. It will be in Hansard. I hope that media will pick it up, and I'm sure that everyone in this chamber will do their best to promote the scheme.
Henry Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In recent weeks, I've been working with Sky News on their investigation into the purchase and misuse of catapults, sadly all too often by children and young people, to kill and maim wildlife and pets, and then all too often videos are shared on social media through channels such as WhatsApp. Can we have a statement from the Home Secretary on introducing criminal sanction for the irresponsible sale and use of catapults to kill and damage wildlife?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for all the work that he is continuing to do on matters such as this, but also in other areas of animal welfare. He will know that Home Office questions is not until the 15th of April, so I will make the Home Secretary aware of what he has said today. This is a disturbing and growing phenomenon, and in addition to causing animal suffering, it also, as we now know, is an indicator of what those perpetrators might go on to do and other crimes that they might commit. It's a serious matter, and I thank the honourable gentleman for raising it.
Alison Thulis.
Deputy Speaker, can we have a debate in government time on the urgent need for an employment bill, particularly to protect those on very precarious app-based contracts? I have had several taxi drivers who have been off-boarded by Uber and Just Eat, delivery drivers as well as taxi drivers, but they don't seem to have any recourse to complain when this happens to them, despite it affecting their employment prospects and their incomes. The government needs to do an awful lot more to protect people in these circumstances.
Well, I will make sure that the Department has heard the honourable lady's concerns. We have had labour market statistics out today, and in addition to the good news on wage growth as people progress through work, since 2010 unemployment has halved, absolute poverty has gone down, and there are 800 people more. There are 800 more people in jobs for every single day that we have been in office.
Philip Hoddebone.
Speaker, I bring good news from Kettering, because Kettering has made it into the top 10 of the most dog-loving places in the UK. A study by pet insurer Waggle has found that in Kettering, for every 1,000 people, there were 252 of our furry friends, with so many local green spaces and countryside where residents can take their dog for a walk, such as the hugely popular Wicksteed Park. It's clear that Kettering is a great place to own and love a dog. So may we have a statement from my right honourable friend, the Leader of the House, celebrating Kettering as one of the most dog-friendly places in the whole country?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for bringing us that good news that we all were hoping for and anticipating, that there are more waggy tails per square mile in Kettering than anywhere else in the UK. And I would encourage local authorities and communities to look to the example that has been set by Kettering, and give my congratulations for everyone who has made it such a dog-friendly place.
Mike Amesbury.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Parents from the Northwich part of my constituency are rightfully lobbying me about specialist educational provision in the Cheshire West and Chester area. Could we have a debate in government time about the sufficiency of resources given to councils and powers to deal with education and health partners in this field, special educational needs? Thank you.
Well, the honourable gentleman raises a very important matter, and he will know that this is not just a priority for the Secretary of State for Education, but something very personal to her and something that she has a particular personal interest in and focus on. We have increased funding available for special education needs. We have invested also in specialist schools, but I will make sure that the Secretary of State is aware of his concerns, as the next education questions is not until the end of April.
Simon Bales.
Madam Deputy Speaker, would my right honourable friend make time for additional debate on farming, and would she agree with me that the Prime Minister's recent announcement of £220 million to deploy new technology to boost productivity in the farming sector in North Shropshire and the rest of England compares very favourably with Welsh Labour's policy, which would force farmers in Clwyd South and the rest of Wales to reduce their productive land by 20%, resulting in a reduction of 122,200 in Welsh livestock numbers, 5,500 jobs being lost, and £199 million loss to Wales's economy, all of which has led to mass protests by the farming community throughout Wales.
Well, can I commend my honourable friend and the farmers that he represents for all the work that they are doing to fight against these plans. He is right, it will cost jobs. It is an appalling use of good agricultural land, and that's why just 3% of the farming community trust the Welsh government, and 87% of farmers believe that that misguided farming policy would not benefit their work or their business, or very importantly, deliver a positive outcome with regard to the environment. I think Labour in Wales need to start listening to farmers.
Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Despite consistently delivering some of the highest economic growth in the country, North West Leicestershire remains currently without access to the rail network, leaving my constituents completely reliant on their own vehicles, taxis or the local bus services. Will the Leader of the House join me in commending the 1,000 North West Leicestershire residents who signed a petition for the reinstatement of the original routes for the number 16, number 29 and number 29A bus services administered by Arriva East Midlands? Madam Deputy Speaker, these bus services are essential for my constituents, so can we have a Minister to give a statement as to why bus services continue to be curtailed when North West Leicestershire is making such an ongoing, massive contribution to the UK economy?
Well, I thank all of his constituents and the businesses in his constituency for what they are doing to grow our economy and to strengthen their own community. The next questions to the Secretary of State will be on the 21st of March, and I would encourage the honourable gentleman to raise it directly with the Secretary of State.
Holly Mumby-Croft.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I recently visited our local Sea Cadets in Scunthorpe to see their new and improved facilities which have been backed by government funding. It is always possible to recognise a serving or former cadet by their manners, their common sense and their can-do approach. And I was incredibly proud to meet 3 former Scunthorpe cadets who've gone on to serve our country as Royal Marine Commandos. Will she join me in commending our fantastic cadet leaders and our local young cadets who we're incredibly proud of? And would she support a debate on how we can continue to support cadets in the very genuine and positive contribution they make to our society?
Well, as the honourable lady was asking her question, there were audible noises of support from around the chamber. I think we all appreciate the work that the Sea Cadets do, as well as being a fantastic escalator of talent and giving young people opportunities and confidence. They also do a huge amount for their local communities, and we would all join with the sentiments that the honourable lady has given us today. We have done a huge amount to expand access to cadets and not just Sea Cadets but other cadets as well, in supporting schools to set up their own branches, but there is always more to do, and her question today has reminded us of the benefits of that.
Stephen Bonnar.
All of us across the House appreciate the vital role played by local individuals and volunteer groups within our constituencies. One such group in my constituency is Friends Together, based in Coatbridge, which has been running for 7 years now and makes a real difference to the lives of 150 local people with additional support needs. I wonder if the Leader of the House will join me in welcoming the most thrilling news that these individuals are to be recognised by the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St John of Jerusalem, of Rhodes and of Malta. Liam Hackett will receive the Cross of Merit, Ina Hamill the Silver Medal, while Elaine McDermott, Patrick Allen, Yvonne Crowley and Elizabeth Locke will receive a bronze medal. This is truly outstanding, a recognition, and it is richly deserved. So I wonder if we could have a debate in government time about the importance of community volunteers right across the United Kingdom and the valuable work that they commit to us.
Well, it's a shame, Madam Deputy Speaker, that applause is not allowed in the House, and would be out of order, because I think we would all want to give those individuals a round of applause. I would say from all of us, congratulations to all in Friends Together, and thank you for your service, and I hope that the Honourable Gentleman will be getting a copy of Hansard today for everyone that he has named. We appreciate all of them.
Bob Blackman.
Deputy Speaker, I'm sure my right honourable friend will join me in congratulating Conservative-run Harrow Council for exceeding the number of apprentices they've recruited this year. More than 50 young people have been given the opportunity to work across different departments, including 8 in our schools, and obviously this gives them the opportunity of building a career which they can do in public service. So will my right honourable friend find time in government time to have a debate on apprentices in public services, so we can congratulate those public services that are recruiting apprentices and shame those that don't?
Well, I do join with my honourable friend in congratulating his local authority for their achievements. I think we should all be proud of the fact that over the last few years we have created 5.7 million of such opportunities for young people, but also people at other stages in their life. It is a tremendous way people can progress or move career, gain new qualifications without getting into debt, and I send my congratulations to him and Harrow Council.
Michael Shanks.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I begin by joining the tributes of the Speaker and the front bench to Tommy McAvoy, who represented my constituency of Rutherglen for 23 years and was a committed trade unionist in the community before. He was very much Rutherglen's man, and I think during the by-election, I don't know how many people said to me, "You don't need to worry." I knew Tommy well all those years ago. 14 years after he stopped being the MP, he was still remembered by so many constituents. I wonder if I could ask the Leader of the House about the subsidy scheme provided to support schools to come to this place. It's always wonderful to see schools visiting us, and as a former teacher of politics, being able to bring pupils to this place to see politics in action is incredibly important. My honourable friend, the member for Paisley and Renfrewshire North, has raised the issue of the subsidy already, and I want to just pick up the fact that although it's been increased for April, for many schools it still is not enough to support them to come to this place. And I wonder if there's been any analysis of how many schools have been prevented from visiting because of that, and if there might be some review of the categories, because all of Scotland's schools are in Category C, and it is particularly difficult to bring them here with the subsidy that's currently in place.
The honourable gentleman for raising this. As I have previously said, this is a matter that has been looked at by the Finance Committee, and they have gone into quite a lot of detail about who is coming here, what were the barriers for people to come here, what other options they have to access education resource that they might want. But clearly coming to this amazing UNESCO heritage site is very important to many people. I will make sure that the Chair of the Finance Committee has heard what he has said. There are a number of House of Commons commissioners in the chamber today, and they will have heard what the honourable gentleman has said. The policy has been recently changed to be more favourable, but I know that all parties concerned keep it under review.
And Mark Horsey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Rugby's providing new housing at scales, yet the number of pharmacies in our town is falling, with closures in recent months leading to residents telling me about having to queue for over an hour to get a prescription. I'm aware of offers to set up new pharmacies, but they've been turned down by our Health and Wellbeing Board, who unbelievably say there is sufficient provision in our area. May we have a debate about how this process is managed?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the situation in the honourable gentleman's constituency, and it sounds a very serious situation indeed. It is the responsibility of local commissioners. They have an obligation to ensure that those services are available. And clearly, because of our initiatives such as Pharmacy First, it is doubly important because now many of these places do have authority to prescribe. I will make sure that the Secretary of State for Health has heard his concerns and ask the regional managers of NHS England to look at what is going on in his local community. It is not a level of service that is acceptable for his constituents.
Alan Brown.
Madam Deputy Speaker, a company called Claim My Tax notified my constituents Margaret and Brian Broadley that they were due a £1,200 marriage tax allowance refund from HMRC. On seeing the paperwork, they believe their signatures have been fraudulently obtained by the company, and they notified HMRC accordingly. HMRC insists they did give permission, and they're going to continue to work with the company rather than directly with my constituents. Now, the government rightly talked about clamping down on the actions of such claims companies. So why is HMRC allowed to behave like this?
Well, I hope that we can swiftly resolve this situation for the honourable gentleman. If he would give me the details of the case following this business question session, I will make sure that he speaks immediately to someone from HMRC who can resolve this. I'm sure he has tried to get this resolved himself. I'm here to assist him in doing so, and I hopefully we'll be able to sort this out for his constituents.
Dr. Luke Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the driving reasons I wanted to come to this House is because what I saw in the NHS. All too often when you wanted to create change, you'd be told you're too junior or this is the way it's always been done. That's why I was delighted to see that the productivity plan was brought forward with £3.4 billion being put towards it. Could we have a debate in government time when that plan is brought forward to make sure that simple things like cross-boundary results are shared, that we can have computers that can switch on and load up quickly, and we get rid of things like faxes and scanning in letters, because all of this takes about 10 to 15% of a clinician's time. That time could be better spent with patients.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is a very good suggestion for a debate, and I hope that all members of the House would welcome the increase in funding for the NHS, £6 billion that was announced in the budget, roughly half of that going to these new improvement programmes. And in addition to assisting members of staff and clinicians working in the NHS, it also, we know, improves patient outcomes. Just to give you one statistic, when a nurse asks a doctor to attend a patient, in a large percentage of cases that is not done, yet if it is tracked by a handheld device and we can ensure that that visit happens or that cannula is changed, it increases those patient outcomes. It is vital, and it is the kind of thing that we need to be doing more of in our NHS so that the patients that are served by it get the treatment and care they deserve.
Mr. Speaker, H100 in methyl is making good progress towards delivering the biggest green hydrogen domestic heating network the world has ever seen. The Government had promised that by March 2023 they'd have announced the successful applicant for an even more ambitious project somewhere in the UK, potentially providing green hydrogen heating to tens of thousands of homes. A year later, we've heard nothing. So can we have a statement to explain why the Government is dragging its feet on this and jeopardising Leavenmouth status and Scotland's status as world leaders in this vital green hydrogen heating technology?
Well, the UK is a world leader in this area. I shall make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said, given that the next questions are not until the 16th of April. But we have a good track record across the UK in this area, and I know that we will want to continue to do that.
Michael. Speaker, I feel that the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has been robbed, Mr. Speaker, robbed of its time in this place. And last year the leader was kind enough to ensure that we had the full hour for oral questions for these important topics. So could I ask again, and we slid back to 40 minutes, could we please have the full hour to discuss our countryside, our fishermen, our farmers and the environment? Very good.
The honourable gentleman is very diligent in ensuring that he has enough time and opportunity to scrutinise the particular department, and I understand why this is a priority for him and the constituency that he represents. He knows these are complicated, there's a complicated Rubik cube of how we divvy up time. I was very sympathetic to the case he made last time, and I will raise it with business managers.
Michael Longley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dudley hospital workers contracted by Mighty have been striking for not receiving a lump sum COVID payment, which some directly employed NHS staff received for doing the same job. Mighty wants the taxpayer to cover these payments, despite being directly responsible for their employees. Will the Leader of the House join me in thanking mighty workers for their work during the pandemic and encourage the Department of Health and Social Care to work with me to resolve this issue?
Yeah. Well, I do join with what the Honourable Gentleman says in thanking them for all the work they did during the pandemic. And it is very important that we ensure that we're valuing all of our health and social care staff, no matter how they are employed and which sector that they sit in. The Department for Health and Social Care has decided to provide additional funding on this occasion to help deliver one-off payments eligible to staff and organisations employed by non-NHS businesses, and those organisations are able to apply for funding. We felt we ought to be doing our bit in respect of that. I know there are discussions ongoing about that, but I will ensure that the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care is aware of this particular situation to see what are the outstanding issues and ensure that people are taken care of and parity is there.
Final question, James.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. The Leader may have seen the news this week that Reading Football Club intends to sell its state-of-the-art Bearwood training ground as a precursor to what I hope will not be administration. Football fans across Berkshire and beyond are in despair at the state of some of the clubs in our beautiful game. I know the issue of football governance bill has already been raised this morning, and it can't come soon enough, but could the Leader please use all of the levers at her disposal to ensure that when the bill does come, it has sufficient teeth and powers in there to ensure that owners who are not fit and proper cannot take control of these clubs, and also that those who do slip through the net are properly held to account?
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right to make that point. He is preaching to the choir, as I am a Portsmouth supporter, and I think that we must ensure that if we are going to do this, it is effective. I think it is unprecedented the amount of input a piece of legislation has had from so many people across the country who are fans of the game. The game would be nothing without its fans, and these clubs are treasured community assets. We need to take care of everyone in the football pyramid, and we will ensure when this bill comes to the House, it does exactly that.
That completes business questions. I'll let the front bench change over.